Okay, so today I was challenged by somebody on X about why do we even need scaled Bitcoin? Why do we even need a million transactions a second? Microtransactions. Why do we even need any of that? I mean, you can buy a coffee and it works just fine on so many of these blockchains and so many of these proof of work systems and even our current system, where credit cards will take 3.5% and pocket a lot, pay their friends and whatever else. The reason why we need microtransactions and nano transactions and all of this scaled Bitcoin, BSV, the real Bitcoin. First of all, it's complicated, and there are so many different applications and reasons beyond even what I'm going to discuss in this video. But I'm just going to kind of lay out some of this low-hanging fruit on why we need this. Okay, so first of all, the biggest animal that people in the blockchain and the cryptocurrency space have been talking about for, I guess, 7 or 8 years now is tokenization. Tokenization is basically like creating a stock, where let's just say you own a software. Let's say you own a video game that is a language learning video game. And you've got partners to pay, promoters to pay, affiliates to pay. You can create all sorts of more complex agreements, and all of those transactions can happen without you having to trust that they're actually, you're going to email them and get paid next month and audit their book. No, this is all an automated process. Okay, and furthermore, let's look at the four biggest assets in the world. Okay, we've got equities, commodities, debt, and real estate. All four of these assets are going to be better served by tokenization, by digital cryptocurrencies, than the current vehicles that we require today. Okay, and I've worked in finance in Tokyo. I'm in Japan, but when I worked in PwC in Tokyo, there was only 10 IPOs for the whole year. And in America, I worked for smaller publicly traded companies as well. And realistically, it doesn't make sense to go public unless you make $10 million per year or more. Just between your auditing requirements, your legal liabilities, all of these liabilities add up, and that doesn't really match where the real opportunities are. And so, when you can create a tokenized asset, you can actually have inherent auditability. All the money coming in is tracked. All the money going out is tracked. You're not requiring these, big four or big six. It used to be big six, now it's big four auditing houses, which, by the way, get fooled all the time. And there's, all sorts of corrupt reasons why we have end runs or, any of these scandals that happen because even when you pay these CPAs whose entire, 50,000 person firm is relying on everyone to follow, the generally accepted accounting principles and these standards, it still doesn't work. Okay, tokenization, inherent auditability, everything on the blockchain, everything forward trackable, backtrackable inside of this financial blockchain situation. It's far more trustable, and damn, it is so much cheaper when you have this scaled, million transaction capacity per second, indefinite auditability built into the system. You make it so you don't need to be a $10 million a year company to go public. You could literally have one YouTube video that literally will become a tokenized asset. You can have assets that are worth $100 that are only paying dividends of 3 cents a month or 25 cents next month or whatever, that are actually viable to become tokenized assets. And this unlocks a long pent up tidal wave of digital performing assets. Okay, and this is the power of microtransactions. This is the power of, right now on BSV, I think you're at like 0.0000, it's like 601 cents for a transaction. And that will decrease as it continues to scale. Okay, this is a really powerful tool that has a very clear trajectory on the value and incentivization is tokenization. This is one of the clearest examples in finance markets. And so that's the first example that I'm using. Next up is the ability to remix or to allow AI to use copyrighted content. Okay, so the way that data on chain works is every transaction you get to put a little bit of data on the blockchain. You could send a message that says "Hello World," or you could get a little bit more advanced, as many people already do, where basically you could even put a whole video onto Bitcoin, the BSV blockchain. Okay, you pay for it to be put onto the blockchain. Okay, and then you will reference back to the transaction numbers and the blocks that this data is on. Okay, and it's all broken up 20 characters at a time, or into these trackable and identifiable, pointable sections of where this data lives. Okay, now the reason this is so important, okay, is I remember years ago that Metallica went after some 12-year-old kid for putting their song onto Napster. And arresting 12-year-old kids sucks. To this day, 2025, there are so many good movies, there are so many good songs, there's so many good copyrighted owned digital assets which are still not mixable, they're still not shareable. If you could, on my new YouTube video, put a section of Braveheart where he's screaming freedom, or have Michael Jackson doing his backstep or whatever, and have it in a piece by piece section, and then by pointing to where in the code this is, your new remixed content will be 3.1652% owned by Paramount. It'll be 7.2365 percent owned by this holding company. It'll be 62% organically produced by the new owner of this digital asset. Proportional data usage, proportional data ownership with microtransactions and scaled Bitcoin enables for a whole new unlocking of value inside of one of the most valuable asset classes in the world, which is digital performing assets, software, code, and content. Okay, these assets are the absolute just an unleashing of value that can be unleashed from just this sector. And then when you think about we're entering the AI age, and we want to be able to use content as through AI to create these new things. Well, you can't just steal copyrighted stuff. You just say AI gets, China created this model where let's just steal the thing and it's Obama fried chicken, or it's, instead of an Apple phone, it's Oppo phone. Okay. The debate whether we should have free intellectual property or not, that's a big debate. But to be able to break these intellectual assets and digital assets, software code, and all these other things up is a huge value for society. I actually am a big fan of leveraging code libraries instead of AI for software development right now. And this is basically what I think the advanced AI programming is going to really be doing is leveraging stuff that's already been used and assembling it. And this does require for you to pay some homage to the original people that built this stuff and spent 500 hours making this digital asset or this section of code that's agreeably perfect. So this is something, remixing the copyrighted content that is a huge benefit and is served extremely well by Bitcoin. Okay. Next up is we're going to go to zero trust business. Okay. So I have been a businessman pretty much my whole life. And I've built companies, I've sold companies, I've dealt with, I had a farm, I had shops, I had an infusion center, I've had web businesses, and a real problem with business, especially as we get to the end of this bubble age, is non-payment, accounts receivable. There's a lot of people that just don't pay. There's a lot of people that say, I don't believe in capitalism. I'm going to take this car from you. And when it comes time to pay, oh, you're just a capitalist pig. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I sold you a fucking car. Pay me. And that sucks, okay? Zero trust business, instant transactions. This is all available with Bitcoin. You don't need to trust anybody. Even your business partners. You know, when we talked about tokenization and being able to split these transactions, why should anybody sit on the money? As soon as a customer says, here's, you know, $20 or whatever, 0.02 Bitcoin or whatever, that money should, boom, it should spread. It should be flowing so quickly so that we don't ever have to trust anybody, okay? And this is actually this is not an innovation of our age, actually. So as I mentioned, I'm here in Japan. There's a major financial institution today called Mitsui. Mitsui is a major conglomerate, and they were founded right after the samurai age in the Edo period, okay? And their initial business was called Mitsukoshi. And Mitsukoshi is still to this day, right near Tokyo Station, a massive department store, okay? And their innovation was no credit. We're not going to give you a loan to buy some silk robe just because you're some fancy pants, you know, clan or whatever, because all the clans are so in debt and they don't pay their bills. And then they threaten you with samurai. This sucks. And why do you even want to go and sue anybody? What a freaking drain on life. Litigation is terrible. And not just that, but litigation is out of reach of regular people. Zero trust business, instant transactions that are split and paid to everybody. Some people call it smart contracts. You know, whatever you're going to call this is a really important thing in the next 5 years, 10 years in the business cycle, because as these bubbles pop, as we see bankruptcies around the world, all over the place, and not just that, but in doing international cross-border business, when someone doesn't pay you, what are you going to freaking do? You're going to fly to Brazil and deal with these guys that owe you, you know, X amount of dollars? No. And so by having zero trust business, by having, as soon as, you know, the money comes through, everyone gets paid. You have a smart contract and a system that splits all this money and instantaneous microtransaction fees that you don't even notice. This enables you to do business with more people. This enables you to do business with people that maybe you don't like or don't trust. But you don't need to trust them. It's zero trust business. And you don't have to worry about them going bankrupt. You don't have to worry about any of that shit. Okay? If they lose their tokens, if they lose their assets because they're going through a bad divorce or whatever, you don't lose anything. Your smart contract never gives your split that risk to have ever been lost in the first place. You are separated from all their bullshit. Okay? Mitsukoshi innovated with this. They survived through the samurai era, and they had survived into the Reformation, the Meiji Reformation phase, by getting past the we gotta trust you just because you're the Shimadzu clan or just because you're the Takeda clan or whoever. I don't care how, you know, JP Morgan you are. You have a risk of going bankrupt, and I don't want to bear that risk, okay? And I want to get paid now. I don't want to wait for a week or trust instantaneous transaction, put it in there. And this is the power of microtransactions, okay? Next up, we're going to talk about immutable open algorithm. So open algorithm as in like open source, as in you can see you could see why and the method to the madness of the algorithm. Record keeping and data on chain. Okay, so obviously data storage is existent. There's petabytes of data around the world. Okay, paying to put it onto the blockchain, storing it on the blockchain, there's a value, but it may not be as clear to some people. Okay. But the big value is trust, okay? I actually don't trust elections. I'm an American. I don't trust that the Republicans are honest. I don't trust that the Democrats are honest. The CIA director came out a couple years ago and said, we're America, we're a republic, a democracy. Oh, and by the way, we rigged 80 plus elections, including in Europe and all over the world over the last 60 years. Okay, why do we need to trust them? Let's put this on the blockchain. Let's open algorithm. Let's say, oh, well, here's my vote. I can see it. I can see it, my whole community. I can break it down. There's ways to not necessarily put my name so we don't have to have a retaliatory environment. But you can be 100% sure that that data is authentic. Okay? God, can you imagine if America had real primaries? If we got to actually, look at the algorithm on how we're going to vote for the Colorado, next governor, and everybody didn't need to go raise $500 million, and you literally let the best ideas get to the top, and you had real primaries, we wouldn't have a two-party system. We wouldn't have two sides that actually think we can fight each other. That's bullshit, okay? We need the best of breed ideas to come up, and that's through a real primary system, and Bitcoin can unlock this. This is something we need, and we need it now. We need a real primary system now. And AI may be helpful. AI may give us some great ideas, but putting a human lever on this thing is a good idea. And allowing humans to use AI to come up with their pitch and get people to vote on them, that's how we're going to keep democratic systems and keep the best of breeds rising to the top. And Bitcoin enables this, okay? Immutable open algo truth ledger, as we call it in the Bitcoin space, is not just important for those types of applications like elections. Weather. There's an application called Weather SV. It tells you what recording device, where in the world, it tracks all that data, it puts it all onto the blockchain. That's been going on for years. I believe in weather change. I'm not trying to get, saying that the weather doesn't change, but do we really trust the institutions, who, by the way, are fighting over billions of dollars in grants and publicity and all that? No, I don't. We need to say that this specific sensor at this specific place in the world said this, and here's 20 years worth of that data. It's going to be far more legitimate. It's going to build trust that we don't have with our academic institutions. Next is food integrity. Okay, so there's a company called Unisat. And Unisat is Scandinavian, I think it's Norwegian, but they basically will track the source of the fish. Here in Japan, we have a huge seafood market. It used to be called Tsukiji, and now it's called... anyways, it's like half of the world's seafood flows through here, okay? And when there's contamination issues, even just for superior quality, food traceability is a very, very important idea, okay? And another thing too, as I said, I was in commercial agriculture. I owned cannabis businesses in Colorado for 10 years. Took about 3% of the Colorado market. Really good products, organic, for example, the name organic. I saw a statistic that something like 85% of the people that claim to be organic are not. That's bullshit. And furthermore, there is superiority and inferiority inside of food. And when you get into the wholesale market, it's really hard to advertise this. It's really hard to show and prove supply chain. Okay? And when you're selling a good product, a really A+ something, and you're just throwing it into the wholesale market, you're throwing pearls before swine. And not just that, but there's people getting swindled. And we have a lot of improvement on this. And it's going to dramatically improve our global food quality and get rid of a lot of bullshit. It's going to increase the importance of reputation for food producers. To be fair, coming out of the United States as originally an American, our food is garbage. It's straight. I wouldn't feed it to a dog, a lot of it. And we need to add authenticity. We need to give, the farm to table business model has been somewhat successful, but we need to further strengthen quality producers and people that fight to keep their clean, advantageous product advantageous, instead of just throwing it all into the bin and sending it to Walmart for them to undercut and screw the quality producers in favor of these mass-produced, zero flavor, bad for you food products. And Bitcoin helps this. It is immutable. It is indefinitely stored. And you can actually have a reputation that becomes global. So this is a very, very important value for this truth ledger. Is, elections, primaries, weather data, food security, helping the food producers to get their message of why this is superior food product for you and your families. So that's another reason why Bitcoin matters, and why mass scaled transactions matter. And next, I'm going to get a little bit into the technology of how Bitcoin works. Okay, and how, when I say Bitcoin, I mean BSV, because BSV, in my eyes, is Bitcoin. A lot of people say BTC and this digital gold narrative is the truth, and it's digital scarcity, and we only have 21 million of them. Yeah, I mean, we only have so many, of so many things. Digital scarcity exists in many things. But I don't think BTC is of really any value except for perceived value, whereas BSV, Bitcoin, is data on chain. It is bit as in data, coin, the financial system of microtransactions and really the oil of our age, data. Okay. Microtransactions are the foundation of paying for everything. When you look at the way that BTC Bitcoin, I'm not going to call it Bitcoin, BTC versus BSV Bitcoin, real Bitcoin, work, BTC is relying on block rewards, okay? They're increasing hash power to protect their network. It's basically like using a jet engine to run a sewing machine, okay? What you're really doing with this mining and hash power is you're confirming the handshake. You're confirming a million handshakes. You're confirming all of these different things, okay? You don't need the vast waste of energy to confirm the handshakes, okay? Yes, you don't want to have these double spends, and yes, you don't have these problems, which, to be fair, can be solved for a fraction of what BTC is solving them for. But the value of microtransactions, the value of all of this data on chain stuff, okay, it's about having transaction demand exceed block rewards, which has already happened on BSV, not every day, not all the time, not even most of the time. But this model has been proved, okay, where Bitcoin survives beyond block rewards because it's being used, because people need that data, because they actually use Bitcoin, okay? Not because it's some buy it one time and store it, tuck it away. And I will admit, I still have some BTC. I haven't touched it in years. I do expect that there's some, behind the scenes Wall Street stuff. I think it could go up in price or whatever, but why would you use it? Okay, it costs. I was going to move it recently, and it cost a fortune. It was like $25 to move my BTC. BSV, I use it. All these things moving around. All these. I don't even notice the fees. Okay, there's a exchange I use called DXS, and every trade is on the blockchain live. If there's ever a problem, you can just see the data right on the blockchain. Boom, it gets resolved. All the interest is paid. Everything is all done. Layer 1, full transparency, full visibility, full auditability. That's really the right way to do it. When you take everything off of layer 1 and put it onto layer 2, not only are you starving the miners and the the data infrastructure system of necessary fees, but you're taking the entire trust system away. In fact, you're taking away the biggest value of Bitcoin, which is data. You really, you cannot underscore the value of data. Inherently auditable companies don't just get rid of 90-something% of auditors. They unlock, 1,000 times as many companies that could go public. And they're all, who wants to do taxes? Who wants to go back and identify your taxes anymore? It can all be automated. Let's get the people that go to work back to work and stop making everybody need to be a B+ level CPA. All of that is data on chain. It's all indefinite auditability, and it's only available with microtransactions. One other aspect of the blockchain. So, a lot of people that are smart people say, well, you can't have data on chain. It's going to get too heavy. Well, right now, the entire BSV blockchain is like 10 terabytes. Okay, that's a $125 external hard drive. Okay. But we start putting this, that, and the other thing, global elections, videos or extremely heavy files onto the blockchain. And you're going to need to start paying people to, host petabytes of data, maybe years out. Microtransactions make that all feasible. Instantaneously, you're not just paying for your transactions, but you're paying for data storage and data serving. Because somebody that's got to store, 500 terabytes of data, and not just store it, but to be able to tag it and say this needs to be in a high bandwidth, immediate serve server. That all can be done through microtransactions. You're not just paying 0.000001 cent for a transaction, but you're paying 0.00000001 cent for that person to be able to serve that data up every time that it's viewed. Those types of microtransactions are a critical piece of us getting away from YouTube owning everything and being able to take certain people offline, take 50 to 95% of ad revenue, demonetize people. Oh yeah, you got a video, we got 20 million views on it. We're still going to keep it on YouTube. We're still driving ad revenue from it, but we're just not paying you for no reason. By the way, we're YouTube. Get some. Sorry, but F that. You need to have a fair ecosystem for this value to dramatically increase. And this is all doable in microtransactions. So these are some of the values and some of the reasons why Bitcoin, BSV, is of tremendous value to the world. And if this video has helped you, if this has been something fruitful, I have left my BSV address below. Feel free to send me a penny or $1,000, whatever you want, whatever value I'm bringing to you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And this did come from just a random guy who's called BS and said we don't need microtransactions. Please leave comments. Please call me bullshit. We can't debate in advance and answer your questions without authenticity. So keep calling bullshit on everybody, and thank you very much for your time.